Let's go make this blueberry cobbler quilt block. But first, always remember to share this so it will save to your profile and you can find it when you're looking for it again later. Let's make our blueberry cobbler quilt block. So it's going to look like this. Look how precious that star is. It says to cut our squares 5 inches by 5 inches because we want our finished quilt block to be 18 inches by 18 inches. And I'm looking right here and I know that I need 4 squares for here and then I need 4 squares for there. So I cut 8 squares, 5 inches by 5 inches. Then it tells me for my half square triangles, which are these, to cut my blocks 5 3/8 inches. So 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. So this is what I started with, 5 3/8 by 5 3/8, and then I cut it on a diagonal. And that's what makes a half square triangle. Because it was a square, we cut it in half diagonally, and now we have a triangle, half square triangle. So now I'm gonna sew one of these to one of these. I'm going to sew this blue one to this pretty yellow one. I'm gonna place it pretty side to pretty side, just like this. And I'm gonna sew down this side. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so. A new quilt block cheat sheet is posted to my Facebook page every Friday, and I'm going to walk you through how to make every one of these blocks one at a time. There's a link with the post that takes you to the printable library, and there's a ton of free printables there, so be sure you take that link and get all of the free printables. And I promise to make this block and every other block easy, because I want you to make them. And if you've ever been intimidated by piecing together a quilt block for a quilt, these are your projects. We've sewn our half square triangles together, so now let's iron them. And y'all know my ironing situation, we've talked about it before. Heat resistant pad, wool mat, all from Walmart, linked in my Walmart storefront. This linked in the caption if you're looking for it. This snazzy Oliso iron, Missouri Star sent me, incredible, super incredible. I want y'all to know, I don't care what you sew with. I'm not selling you anything. I want you to buy what you want. So if you're looking for it, great. If you're not, that's great too. Okay, I'm not ironing my seams open. I'm only ironing them to one side only because the blocks open up naturally that way. I don't even do that. I just try to get my pieces reasonably flat normally. Now, I'm going to try to lay my block out like my picture shows. And I'm just like y'all. The hardest part about making a quilt or a quilt block is deciding where the fabric goes. I decided where my fabric was going before I cut it out to do this tutorial, and then I forgot, so now I'm trying to figure it out again. But I know I had a method somewhere upstairs, now if I can just remember what it was. Okay, y'all, this is so cute. This is how I want mine to look. Now, I'm going to use my clip trick. We've talked about it before. I put a clip on the very first block of each row, so that when I'm sewing them, I know this is the top. But if you're not comfortable piling yours up and sewing them, just sew them 2 at a time. Don't make a mess out of it, okay? Or if you have a different system, use that system too. So I've piled all of mine up. I'm going to pick up the first 2 blocks and I'm going to sew right here. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when I start and when I stop, because my grandma said so. If I told y'all how many things I have sewn without ironing, or how many quilt blocks or whole quilts I had to tear apart because I thought I had it piled up correctly and I didn't, y'all would stop watching me. Some days, I promise, everything I touch is pure magic. It's almost like I can't get anything wrong. And some days, it is exactly the opposite. All I do all day long is mess stuff up. And I know y'all are just like me. And I obviously like the magical days much more than the frustrating ones. But the frustrating ones teach us a lesson too in what not to do. We've sewn them. Now we're going to iron them again. And same thing. You can iron your seams open to one side or just flat. Or not iron them at all. Nobody's judging you over here. I'm going to iron mine because I think it just looks nicer when it's finished. But we are not the sewing police. Make sure before you do this next step that you look at all of your rows and that all of your pieces are turned the way you want them to be turned. Because if you had one wrong, as much as you would hate to take it out right now, it would be way better than having to take it out after you put it all together. So just take a minute and look at it. We're going to take this row, we're going to lay it down pretty side to pretty side, and we're going to sew right down here. Straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, back stitching when we start and when we stop, because my grandma said so. And make sure that your seams match. Pinch it, pleat it, pull it, whatever you got to do. Just make sure they match.
My pieces came from a layer cake, a 10-inch by 10-inch stack of fabric that I cut the sizes that I needed. And I'll use the scraps for something else. And I love a layer cake for a project like this because you get a big variety of fabrics that all coordinate together. When I was a beginner, I loved a layer cake because I wasn't confident in my own fabric choices. And even now, after all these years, I still love a layer cake because it's easy to look at the color combinations and find one that you absolutely love.
We've sewn it. Now we're going to iron it one more time. Now, my students are putting this quilt block in between some appliques. So they'll have 6 appliques and 6 patchwork blocks. But now when I say patchwork, it doesn't have to be traditional 5-inch or 3-inch or 8-inch squares. It can be a pieced block like this. So they'll have 6 appliques and then they'll have 6 of these blocks. And it will alternate applique, quilt block, applique, quilt block. But if you wanted to do applique and quilt blocks, but you didn't want them to be this big, then you could reduce the size of the appliques when you print them and get a smaller applique. But I'm already excited to see the ones that you make. So be sure to email a photo to hometownquiltcompany@gmail.com for show and tell, because we all want to see. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.